first public hearing on ordinance number 1527, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Telluride, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by replacing Article 9 Planned Unit Development with the new Article 9 Planned Development District Overlay. Anyone in the audience have anything to say regarding ordinance number 1527? Seeing none, then we'll proceed to the next public hearing, ordinance number 1528, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Telluride, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by amending Article 4, Specific District Regulations, Section 3, Residential Districts, by adding R1A, Large Lot Residential District. Anyone in the audience wish to address the council on that matter? All right, seeing none, we will proceed with the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. First, the roll call. Ms. Golden, please.
Yes, Mayor Curley.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Here.
Alderperson Berry.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Dunn. Noes.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
7 present.
All right, the chair detects a quorum, so we'll proceed. This is a very special week in our country where we recognize the tragedy of September the 11th, 2001. So Pastor Nutter is going to lead us in our invocation. I'll ask everyone to please stand. And Reverend Nutter, if you don't know, after your prayer, the color guard will present the colors, and then once that is in position, then we'll ask you to present the invocation, please. So I ask everyone to please stand and remain standing. Pastor Nutter.
Thank you, Mayor. Lord God, as we gather tonight, we thank you for our newly elected aldermen, Alderman Blackwell and Alderman Berry. Pray your blessings upon them and upon our mayor and aldermen as they make decisions that affect all of us. And as Mayor Curley said, we truly remember 9/11 almost 18 years ago. We pray that you would continue to shed your grace upon our country as we remember those who gave the supreme sacrifice on that infamous day. Bless us as your people. Hear us. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Present.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order.
Thank you. Please be seated. Well, you'll please join me in welcoming our honorary alderman this evening. We have Ms. Brianna Welch who's joined us at the start of the school year. We're very pleased that she's here. Ms. Welch is a very accomplished young lady. She is the Telluride varsity cheer captain. She's in the top 10% of her class. She was selected for the 3 years as an All-American cheerleader. She was the first alternate as a distinguished young woman of Tullahoma and Cumberland Valley. She is the vice president of the high school DECA organization. She's a member of the National Honor Society, National English Honor Society, member of Mu Alpha Theta. She's a member of First Baptist Church Youth Group. She served as a page to former Alderman and now current State Senator Janice Bowling. And she's a Special Olympics volunteer, and she's president of her sorority. So, a very distinguished young lady. So, Brianna, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
After high school, I'm planning on attending the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And right now, I'm planning to study psychology.
Good. Now, is there anyone in the audience that you'd like to recognize tonight?
My parents are here, Daryl and Lori Welch.
Wave a hand here. There you go. Well, Brianna, we appreciate very much you being with us tonight. And so if you'll stand there at your seat, we've got a certificate recognizing you as the honorary alderman.
Hey, ask me who's going to win the game next week between the Balls and UTC.
Falls playing UTC next week. It's a tough game for the Vols.
Okay, so Brianna, Ms. Welch, we'll call on you in a few minutes for anything that's going on at the high school that you'd like to announce, or in church or wherever. Yeah. So we're very pleased that you're here. So Ms. Moody is here, and she will recognize the Employee of the Month. Ms. Moody.
Yes, each month we like to recognize one employee of the city for the way that they demonstrate our values and exemplary actions. And tonight we have an employee from our Tullahoma Fire Department being recognized. And I will ask Chief Shestine to come up and tell a little bit about why.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Moody. Board. We have been honored to have Jeremy Taylor work for the fire department for several years, and I'd like to ask him to come up at this time, and I'm going to brag on him a little bit, and then he can defend himself.
Sure.
As you always allow. Jeremy? Jeremy was nominated for Employee of the Month, and it was overdue for him. He's done a lot of things for the fire department. Some of the things that were mentioned that he's done extra beyond the call of duty, volunteered to do them. He maintains all of our small equipment, which is vital equipment. In the past, we've had people do it outside the department. We've shared it among shifts, and sometimes that gets a little confusing. And Jeremy came to me several years ago and said, Chief, I'd like to just do it all myself. That way we can come up with a set list. I know everything's been done. We can track it a lot better, and just believe it'll work out better. And I'm like, well, Jeremy, that's a lot of work, a lot of extra work that you don't have to do. And he said, I want to do it. So I talked with the officers, and they're all like, man, he's great. He kind of runs a shop on his days off, so he'd be the perfect person to do it. So we allowed him to do that, and of course he performed very well, consistently. The equipment works as it should, and if there are issues, he's always jumping in there going, here, let me check it out or whatever. Also, he does a lot of other things. For instance, we were having pager issues today, as frequent as today, and he was in there up in the ceiling fixing the wiring and doing stuff. So he's kind of a go-to guy. He also comes with us with a previous career from the forestry. So he helps us a lot of times on when we're specking out brush trucks, what kind of stuff we need for brush fires. He operated a bulldozer, so he's just got a lot of no butch, you can't have him. But he does a lot of things for us. So I just wanted to recognize Jeremy and then thank you. And we had it as a surprise. He had no idea until somebody posted it on Facebook and thanked him and congratulated him today. So then he kind of heard a little bit about it. But thank you, Jeremy. You did a great job.
Absolutely. Recognize.
I would just like to thank everyone that participated in this. I'm glad to be part of this team. This is a team effort. All departments together. I'm proud to be a firefighter here for Mr. Shestine and work for the city of Tullahoma. And thank you for voting me for this. I hope many years to come that I'll be here. So.
We do too. Yeah. Ms. Moody, thank you. Okay, ready now for comments from citizens. Anyone in the audience wish to address the council at this time? Lieutenant Henderson, you're recognized.
Mayor, I know there's been a lot of things that have been going on, been showing up on Facebook, things like that, about the selection of police chief. 3 weeks ago, I was taken out of that selection, and everybody went through the same process. I went through the same process that Jason Williams went through and the other candidates did. I was eliminated from that process, and since then, I'm sure everybody has emails blown up and all that. I told all my guys from the day that I found out that I was eliminated that each one of us wears a badge and a nameplate, and on one of them is the city of Tullahoma, on the other is your last name, and that.
You're doing fine.
Each one of us needs to represent those with dignity and respect. And that's what I've tried to do with my whole career, is honor the city and honor my last name. Okay? Last board meeting, when Ms. Keene and Mr. Duncan left, Ms. Keene sat up there and she said, "You all will have to make some tough choices during this time. They won't be necessarily choices that the city would want you to make, the city as citizens. Tonight, this is going to be one of those choices. But you know what you have to do? There's one candidate in this running still. That's it. One. And that is Mr. Williams. Okay? I will support Mr. Williams in anything that comes up. Like I say, I'm here for the city of Tullahoma. I'm here for the citizens here, the fire department, everybody that lives inside the city limits of Tullahoma, everybody that's visiting the city of Tullahoma. Okay? I appreciate this time. It's not too often that somebody that does not live in Tullahoma gets to say something to the board, but I appreciate it. And like I say, we'll see where Mr. Williams takes us. Or if I call in Jason for another, 45 minutes.
Thank you. Lieutenant Henderson, that was a pretty classy thing to do. Appreciate your words and your support of Mr. Williams. Yep. So we'll carry on. Anyone else in the audience wish to say anything at this time? No public comment. Seeing none, we will proceed. Next on the agenda is the reports of the board mayor and alderman. Mr. Mathis.
I'm going to say something tonight.
Yes, sir. You're
About
recognized.
time, isn't it?
No, you're.
Friday night, there was a big crowd down at the recognition of the journey, and that was really something to see. Also, this Friday night, there's a big game at Tullahoma High School, and that's Franklin County. So we need all the people to come out and watch. We ran into Marshall County last week, and that wasn't pleasant. They came in here and took it to us, but maybe this one will be better. But everybody come out and support the kids, and let's have a good one.
Good.
Okay?
Good advice. Thank you. Mr. Berry, Alderman Berry.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to join him in saying go Cats. All right. I had a couple things met with the downtown council, got caught up on that. Some really exciting stuff coming up. I'm really anxious working on becoming a Main Street program. Mr. Winston and Miss Shelley have done some really cool things. I think today finished the bidding process for the branding coming up, so that's exciting. Looking forward to some great things coming out of that. I went to my first consolidated communications meeting and trying to wrap my head around what's going on there. Next meeting's in October, so I've got some time. And I held a town hall last week, which we'll continue doing on first and third Tuesdays. And got some great feedback, got some stuff to share with Winston, and it was exciting. We hope to grow that, and it's an opportunity for people to get to sit down and talk to us and share ideas, and that is it.
Good. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Ms. Blackwell.
Nothing too much. Mainly all of my meetings start this week, is what it feels like, but I'm really looking forward to meeting with Jennifer this week, Miss Moody. She's going to give me quite a bit of training on Wednesday and Thursday before I'm going to be out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Dr. Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What are you going to be out for?
If everything goes well, only for a few days next week.
I thought you said your water broke.
No, it didn't. That was my dream last night.
Just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the last meeting, I had a meeting with TUA. We're up approaching that 4,000 subscription rate, which is wonderful. Also had a meeting with Duck River. We have water. Everything's going well there. We have a big event this weekend, other than ball game Friday night. We have a fly-in, AOPA. Is this a national fly-in, Ray, or a regional?
It's big. No, it's national.
It's a big one. So they have a temporary hangar put up there on the tarmac at present, which is huge. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but that'll be for the logistics of signing people in and stuff. So if you have a chance to go out there, it'd be a fun time. Also would like to thank Lieutenant Henderson for being our interim chief for the last few months. Appreciate what all you do for our community, and you will continue to do that, I'm sure. Last thing I'd like to mention is we need to shop Tullahoma if all possible. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Dunn.
We had at the Go Green Council, we welcomed a rain garden expert from UT Knoxville. She came in and looked at some different properties around town, so gave us a lot of good ideas. So hopefully we'll get some traction going with that too. We had the Master Gardeners group was looking at that with me. So and the Go Green group is having a recycling and composting 101 workshop on September 28th. It's going to be at 9:30. It's a Saturday at CFC Recycling. So Andrew Rice, the president there, has been very cordial to let us host over there. So he's going to, we'll have a Q&A, and then he's going to lead a tour of that facility, which is really neat. So it should be fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Mr. Nellis.
Yes, Mayor. The first meeting I had with the TAEDC was a very good meeting with Mr. Robinson and his group. Great board that you have on TAEDC. I'm honored to be a part of that. The TUA had a retirement party for Andy Neas this last week that was very well attended, highly respected chairman of the board there. So it was great to see Andy. He's retiring from that position. Andy was the same age as my son, so I could see him as a kid still, but glad to see him growing up a little bit. The AOPA event this weekend, yes, it will be a major event for our city. If you get about 700 airplanes flying in here on Thursday and Friday and so on, that's pretty big. We're bringing people with them also, not just airplanes. But we had an AOPA planning meeting at the airport. These things don't just happen. I am astounded at the amount of detail that the planners have to go into to make an event like this happen, and they are doing that. So Friday and Saturday night is going to be a conflict with your ball game. I'm sorry, but there will be a little AOPA event going on that night. And for the police department, you're going to have some traffic issues at the airport and at the ball field. So I know you'll handle that well, but it'll be a big event. On the side note, in the past at the board meetings, I have mentioned the fact that Dream Tullahoma has been the recipient of a collection of model airplanes, up to 750 scale model airplanes. The scale is 1/72nd scale. So the Wright Flyer, the first airplane, is about less than a foot long. The Space Shuttle, on the other hand, stands up about 4 feet tall. And we have 750 airplanes in between. So it is a major collection that was made by a person that worked with Wouter von Braun at Marshall, but his hobby was modeling. He built the cases that the models are displayed in. There are 7 4-foot wide display cases. Getting a place to locate those models has been a challenge. It's one of the first things that our city administrator and I talked about when she first came here a year ago. We talked about where in the world could we get these models? Where could we put them in Tullahoma? We looked everywhere. Today, as of last Friday, those models are on display at the new Motlow State Community College Library in place. That didn't just happen either. We engaged the A1 Moving Company to help us with that. We told them that Dream Tullahoma didn't have any money, so we needed their help. We are an AOC3 community charitable organization. We could give them some free advertising on our AOPA fly-in material, up to like $2,000 worth of free advertising, if they would move the models for us. They finally agreed to do that. That was a bigger job than we had ever anticipated. They were in a basement in the house where they were. They had to be brought outside the basement and up 12 steps to get them to ground level. Major job. A1 Moving Company, their owners were gracious in helping us make that happen. Another shout out goes to Jim Apple, Mary Lou Apple's former president at Motlow. Her husband was invaluable in making this happen. He was in the Air Force and had a wealth of knowledge about all the airplanes that were there and could, hey, I know this about this, and we got them presented the way they grouped them by period. Like these are Vietnam airplanes, these are these are World War I airplanes, these are World War II airplanes. So give us time to get some signage on the airplanes out there, and I want the community to come to Motlow to see the 501c3 Dream Tullahoma collection of model airplanes. That has been a challenge to make happen, and I'm proud to announce that they're on display now.
Yeah, congratulations. So one AOPA question. So the AOPA reached out to me and they determined what my level of skill was. And so do I need to bring my own spatula to flip the pancakes, or will they provide spatulas?
You might check really to see if you're on the agenda or not.
So do I have to qualify to flip the pancakes?
Yes.
I do?
So,
Wow.
it's
I
rigorous.
don't know if you'll make it or not.
It's a
I'm
rigorous
sorry to be
process.
the bearer of bad news.
I'll work on it.
Good luck. I'll put in a word for
Oh,
you.
good, thank you. Yeah, I need a good one. So, Ms. Welch, anything that you'd like to report?
So at the high school, like Alderman Mathis and Barry said, we're getting ready for the big Franklin County game. We're super excited about that. There's an ACT test this Saturday that everyone's getting ready to take. And last weekend, our band performed at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and we're all super proud of them for that.
Did the cheerleaders get to accompany the band?
They did not.
Oh, okay. Good report. Thank you. Appreciate you being here tonight, okay? Yeah. Okay, I want to, I was not able to attend all of the community concert Friday night, but it was an excellent, excellent concert, Mr. Glick, and all the team that helped put all that together. That doesn't come easy, but largest crowd I've seen. In fact, one community leader came up to me afterwards and said, "This is the largest crowd I've ever seen in Tullahoma outside of a football game." It was a couple thousand, maybe plus or minus, I don't know. Big crowd, big crowd. All right, so Mrs. Moody, was there an agenda item we need to add to the consent agenda?
Yes, if you would, there are some last minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped.
You did, you said the city attorney.
I did, well, I skipped you also, so my fault. So let's go to the city attorney.
Well, we're working on several things, but none of them come to fruition yet. We'll let you know in a few days, and then we'll have some announcements to make.
Good. Good news, I hope. Mrs. Moody?
Yes, I'll go right to it. There is one agenda item that I left at the dais tonight, and it is regarding the HVAC replacement at CD Stamps Community Center. I'd like, if we can, add this for your consideration tonight. That will save us from a 2-week delay waiting for the next meeting.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion that we add agenda item 19, 1, 2, 3 to the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Noah, second by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? We're simply adding 19, 1, 2, 3 to the consent agenda. We ready to vote?
Yes.
All those who should vote?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So Noah's made the motion, second by
Dr.
Blanks.
Blanks.
And we're adding it to the consent.
I bet it says green all the way.
Well. Ready? There we
Ah, there you go. 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. All right, so we've added that. Make a note so I don't forget. All right, Mrs. Moody, you're recognized.
Yes, I would just echo, we have a great team, and they do a great job preparing the city for these community events like the Journey concert. And then for AOPA, I've been impressed just how many hands it takes to do an event like that. We've had Public Works out there mowing, preparing parking areas. I know finance staff will be out there helping run credit cards. All our public safety professionals will be out there. And then not to mention the airport staff that I can't even imagine having to refuel 700 planes. So, you know, it's a big effort, but I'm very proud of them. They're doing a great job and working together as a team. One other thing I would like to mention is about a month ago, there was a call for nominations for the TML Legislative Advisory Committee, and Alderman Noes threw his name out as being willing to serve, and he has been appointed to that committee. So congratulations. He will represent our region and bringing up legislative issues and hopefully help set the priorities for TML this next session.
Very good.
That is all.
Do you want to mention about the streetscape plan, or do you want to wait to do that
Oh,
later?
I'm sorry, I do want to mention that.
Okay.
And also just a reminder, I think you said this, but this Wednesday morning, September 11th, we will have a Patriot Day commemoration starting at 7:30 a.m. at Fire Station Number 1, and all the public is invited and welcome to attend that. Tonight, I have with us from Reagan Smith, Kevin Gunther. He is the consultant that's been leading the North Jackson Streetscape Plan with our community. We've had a number of community meetings, including some small stakeholder focus groups, and also a public meeting that we held at the high school that was very well attended. So this is the final presentation of the draft plan, and I will turn it over to Kevin Gunther to walk us through it.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. Mayor Curley, Board Mayor Alderman, city staff, and all those participating tonight. Pleasure to be here tonight. We're excited about what's happening in Tullahoma, and it was a pleasure to work with the stakeholders and the staff, as Ms. Meade had mentioned, to start really looking at North Jackson as an important corridor that comes into the city. We picked this stretch, we being not only myself with Reagan Smith, but obviously the city, because of the fact that it is an important gateway to the community. So that's how we started with the premise, is that this will, and has always been and will continue to be, a very important entrance into the city. So as Ms. Moody had mentioned, we conducted quite a few stakeholder interviews and got some public input, and that was a very successful process, and then we had a lot of participants, and I appreciated just the different venues and different places that people came from to join the input process. And at the end of that input process, we had what we call 6 big opportunities and 6 big constraints that really rose to the surface as part of the planning process. And I'm just going to highlight those very quickly. One was, as I mentioned, this is a gateway. This is a prominent way into the city, and it's a prominent corridor that many people travel through, whether it's actually coming to the downtown, whether it's going to Lynchburg, or going out to, even going back towards Shelbyville. The other thing is that there is really an opportunity to unify this streetscape. You know, one of the things we heard a lot about was, in very simple words, clean and green. That was a theme that we heard, is a very simple way to enhance this experience as you're passing through a corridor. Number 3 is the pedestrian and bicycle connections, that there's a need for a continued network of bicycles and people. I love designing for cars. I'm all about cars and getting people from point A to point B, but as a landscape architect, you know, we got to have more than just one way. You know, having people connect with the space that they're traveling through. You ended up capturing more of the traffic that's coming through this area and having people stay and experience the space, take part in the retail and the commerce there, enhancing the street. We're talking about some of the details like the landscapes, lighting, signage. I think there's an opportunity to, not only in this corridor, but throughout the city, create a stronger sense of what we call placemaking and wayfinding signage. So then we get into some of the constraints. There are existing utilities above ground that are making a large impact on the corridor. We think that it'd be well served to try to either place those in the backs of some of the adjoining streets or the adjoining property at the rear entrances, or in a perfect world, you can get those utilities underground. There's really some constraints in terms of the existing crossings there. Those need to be improved. There are places where the right-of-way gets kind of narrow, so we've tried to creatively look at design parameters that could best use the right-of-way that we have. There's some existing properties that are currently, quite honestly, a little bit neglected. We think that there's a way to enhance those properties even if they're not occupied. And then there's also a way, soften and screen with landscape between the street and the parking and some of the commercial establishments. That doesn't mean hiding. It doesn't mean having to eliminate visibility, but the landscape could really kind of soften and start to screen some of those existing places of commerce. And then also this corridor is really a connection to downtown. So what we want to do is really invite people to continue to come to downtown Tullahoma. There's maybe some people that travel through this corridor that don't realize that just another half mile down the road, they have a whole different experience in the downtown area. After that initial feedback, we went back and what I call prioritization, asked for people to tell us which one of these were the most important. And that's not to say that any one is not important, but we wanted to get a sense of maybe where the initial priorities might be, what we heard was that unifying that streetscape, that kind of clean and green that I was talking about, improving pedestrian and bike connections, and then also improving the crossings. Those were top priorities in a lot of people's minds. Along with that came a close emphasis on some of the signage, maybe a wayfinding signage, unifying the types of signs in the corridor, and then taking care of some of the vacant or neglected properties. So those were the priorities that we kind of heard come back to us. After that, we established 3 main character areas. What I mean by that is within the district, there are some areas that kind of have distinct feelings of their own. What you see in kind of the purplish blue is what we call the commercial zone. That's a high area of commerce that will continue to be commercial. The red area is actually what we think Cedar Lane, and Williams Drive would actually really open a further opportunity into your airport area to do what we call a mixed-use development area. So that could even be second or third story buildings that have more than just commercial. You have opportunities for some residential. You have places within that where you can really stack more than one type of use. And then that last district in the green is what we call the high school or the cemetery district. Had its own distinct feeling. The right-of-way narrowed down a bit. Obviously, the cemetery plays a very big role in how that particular character area feels. So what we did is we established some ideas that a section of the street, what that could feel like in the future. You'll see we've added landscape between the sidewalk. We've added areas where you have not only perhaps just a normal sidewalk. We think on one side of the street, you could really do what we call a multimodal pathway, which is a 10-foot wide, multi-use path for both bikes, pedestrians, strollers, rollerbladers, any number of people that could really connect that corridor.
Mr. Guthrie, can you back up one?
Yes, sir.
So, Ms. Gunn, you'll have an interest in this. I think all of us will. Describe those special, unique street lights there.
Sure. So one of the things we were looking at as we started thinking about ways to make this corridor unique is to use lighting as a way to create a rhythm down the street. It also creates a pedestrian scale down the street. And we thought, you could go with the traditional acorn, historic type of light. But what if you got a little fun in that and did something a little more contemporary? Something that kind of fits in with the aerospace and the technology. So what we presented is a type of light fixture that has kind of a dual function. It's one arm is kind of arched over the street, the other arm is kind of arched over your pedestrian way, and it really kind of takes on that same swoop of Tullahoma, and it also has a more contemporary feeling that could run off of solar panels. It could be something kind of unique and branding for Tullahoma. So we thought, there's ways to, even within light fixtures, kind of start connecting to the branding that you've already started. Anything more?
No, sure, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. So these are just some precedent images of what we think that commercial area could feel like, and you'll see places where the existing businesses and the new businesses could also participate. This could expand beyond just the right-of-way. There are places like in that center picture where you can have places for bicycle, pedestrians, and more landscape within the parking. You can have, as I mentioned, places where the landscape softens between your commerce and your street. And you can even use the parking lot to serve as a way to actually clean your stormwater, which is that lower right-hand picture. So we kind of did a quick, and this is just a what-if picture of what you have now and implementing all these ideas, what could be. And one of the things that I want to mention is that we think this is very achievable. It's not going to happen overnight. It does involve some money, involves some policy changes, but we think that just as policies that are set maybe 10, 15 years ago tend to shape the way things feel today, what you as a city decide you want to adopt as policies and possible design parameters will shape out things the next 10 to 20 years. So you'll see in this picture, one of the things is that connecting multimodal pathway, you'll see the street lights that kind of form a rhythm down the street. And the idea that one of the very simple things we could do is put in accent planting between curb and your sidewalk. And those are things that the city could implement that would actually start branding that whole corridor. One of the things that we heard people talk about was this particular stretch of Tullahoma used to be filled with daffodils. And there was a memory in some people's mind of how unique that was. And if you think about how simple that is, it's something that's very achievable, but it also makes a strong impression. So that type of thing is one of the first phase items that we thought could really be implemented. And we get into that mixed-use character area, as I mentioned, that could involve buildings. Eventually, you could have some buildings that are close to the street. You could create some pockets where maybe you even have outdoor cafes, where you have that space that the pedestrian wants to spend some time between the street and the place of commerce. And when I think of that, what I get excited about is what if people coming through that corridor that are on their way to Lynchburg or to enjoy the aerospace museum or other things that you have, what if they notice that there's this place they can stop and experience and spend some time? And I think that mixed use character area is one of those places. And by the way, you do have some very notable things with Beechcraft and with a sense of your downtown that I think once people get here and they experience it, you want to have them come back for more. This corridor is kind of that invitation for people to desire that very thing. So here again, just some images to show what that could feel like. An existing photo in the upper right, and then a proposed photo on the lower left. What you'll see is not only do you have the street lights, you'll see one of the monuments that we're proposing could be replicated throughout Tullahoma. Something that's kind of a timeless feeling. We'll show you an enlargement of that. And then we get to that third district, or character area called the high school area, where because of limited space, you may have the sidewalk actually start to stay closer to the roadway, but there's still opportunities to do things with the landscape to create that rhythm. As nice as that fence is along your existing cemetery, and I know some recent improvements were made to that, there again, what if you had some color, what if you had some simple perennials or crepe myrtles or something that were seasonal that enhance that even more. These are just some images that we think kind of correlate to that particular character area. And one more photo. This is actually looking north. This is right at the far south end of our corridor, which ends at Wilson. But you can see where even there's room, there's places where we can pick up the opportunity to create that rhythm and that landscape. And it'd be really nice if we could even put in some mast arms that are not just the string lights that go across. And you'll see just how much of an impact that makes. Now, I have to admit, it's always nice in Photoshop to go from a gray sky to a blue, so you might cheat a little bit here and there. But I think you'll see, just even aside from that, what kind of character we can start to establish through those pictures. As I mentioned, simple ideas of carrying perennials, those can even carry not only in the median, but businesses can start putting in planters that would carry the same theme of colors. On the left, there's two different ideas that you could use to start to create a monument so people know that they've arrived in the Tullahoma Gateway. And the last thing I'll mention is there was a lot of talk, pretty much every stakeholder, every meeting that came up about existing crossings at the high school, some of the challenges you face there. So one of the things we suggested could happen would be some type of pedestrian crossing, but I'm going to make sure to emphasize that were to happen, it'd have to happen with TDOT blessing, and it would have to happen in a way that we really had a safe, well-established crossing. We're not talking about simply putting down paint or simply putting up a sign or two. It would have to be something that we call, a signalized control crossing. But that was something that came up pretty much at every stakeholder meeting. So we wanted to suggest this is the type of mechanism that may provide that type of crossing. One of the things that would also do would link the greenway where it comes out now to some of the commerce you have on the other side of Jackson. And if you can picture a multimodal path now coming all the way downtown, linking to your existing greenway, following the creek back up, now you have a really cool loop where people could actually experience the corridor from two different directions, one in a very natural setting, one in a very high activity commerce setting. So, and this is in the last page of your report, one of the things we wanted to do is make this achievable, make this something you can accomplish. So we've broken this down into phases, talking about what could be happening in the first 6 months to a year. Maybe the second phase is looking at over 2 to 5 years, and the third phase is looking at the next 10 or more. Not to say some of those couldn't switch up, but we wanted to give you a sense that you could start doing something tomorrow that would make an impact, and at the same time, you can start planning for something that could really carry on into the next generation. So, very happy to answer any questions you have. Is there anything you think we need to add to that?
I don't think so, but I would like to just thank you and your partners that worked with you. I think a lot of times bringing in an outside consultant, you worry that the plan is not going to be representative of the community. And I think that Kevin and his team were very thoughtful in each step of the process and really listening to what our residents and our staff had to say and making this plan something that's very achievable for our staff and our budget and something that we are all very much bought into. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
The cost of this.
The cost of this is really a long-term effort. We didn't put numbers to any one particular item because right now you could start with crepe myrtles and perennial flowers, that cost maybe $1,000 a bed, multiply that for however many you want down your street. Light fixtures, you're going to the next level up. They may cost anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a fixture, depending on how fancy you get. Doing a 10-foot wide multimodal path, that's a big project. That's going to be something you want to get partners with, like TDOT. There's transportation alternative grants to help you with that. Because now you're talking about millions of dollars. So we didn't put one line item to do this whole project because really the idea is give you a focus on where you want to start and then allow you to take one step at a time, bite off maybe some smaller pieces before you bid off $1 million project. I think it's going to take partnership with businesses there too. So that's another thing we discussed is I think if they recognize the city is investing in something to make this corridor unique, then they're willing to probably bring something to the table as well.
Question about that crossing there at the high school over into the commercial district. Did y'all look into overpasses or crossing like that instead of, I think it would be very difficult to have a stop on a major highway like that,
Sure.
the flashing.
Right.
But I know that there's, if you go outside of Maryville and Alcoa, going towards the airport, they have a crossing from like a residential section or a more greenway space over to their commercial area.
Right.
Every time I go through there, I think about that.
Sure.
That, that would be that'd be great to do if the state would allow us to do that.
I think the state could allow you to do it. I'm not going to speak for TDOT. I wish I could. I could get a lot of things done. But yes, that's possible to get some kind of pedestrian crossing. there's obviously three ways to go. Either you go over, you go at grade, or you go under. You know, I'm going to say just any time you cross over like that, you're looking at a minimum of $1 million for the crossing. The other thing is you've got to ramp up each side. If you got a picture, it's got to be ADA accessible. So it's not like just steps going up. You'll have long ramps that come.
Well, the one that I spoke of has those back and
Right,
forth and then
yes,
it comes
absolutely.
up.
So you know what I'm speaking of.
Yep.
That is something that you could do. It would be a great way to brand that corridor. You know, you could, if you think about ways you could take the bridge and make it a statement. So there is a challenge in that. Even when you have that, you still have the temptation for people to not use the bridge. It's amazing how even in that setting, they might choose 50, 70 yards down the street or up the street to decide, hey, I'm going to cross here because, you know, it's faster, more convenient.
We could tie it into the greenway right there.
Absolutely. I don't think that's a bad idea. So I'm not trying to dismiss it.
I'm just thinking.
I think it's a great idea. It would take more investment than an at-grade crossing.
Yep.
And when I say an at-grade crossing, I mean, when you come to a four-way stop or a three-way signalized intersection, that's what this has to feel like. I'm not talking about flashing lights, beware pedestrians. It has to be literally, you know, like an intersection. So I think a bridge could work. I think it could give you a unique branding. I like the idea.
Mr. Barry.
This may be for Ms. Moody. We have the recommendations. What's the next step? How do we?
Well, my immediate next step is looking at projects that we already have in the works. So we have a surface transportation project with the state that is going to be continuing to fill in gaps in the sidewalk network that we have on Jackson Street, and then carrying those sidewalks down William Northern. And so immediately we've started trying to coordinate with the design of that project to make sure that we take elements of this design and incorporate it. And then as he said, I think future grant applications, we may look at how we can implement parts of the plan. So that's the immediate. And then also some of the planting recommendations, we've been looking at how we can incorporate that into the downtown landscape beds to start to pick up on some similar. So there's some cohesiveness between downtown and the streetscape. And then beyond that, my thought was the way that we might want to approach phasing this in is to pick particular intersections, key intersections in this corridor, and look at how we can improve those, and then fill in the gaps in between the intersections.
Good. Anyone else? Mr. Nevers.
In looking at the before and after pictures,
Yes, sir.
the after pictures sure do look good. The thing that I noticed more than anything else about colors and the things you do with Photoshopping is there's no overhead utilities shown. Everything is underground. Have you given conscious thought to getting underground utilities for this? I mean, it makes it so much more attractive when you have underground utilities. One of the things that just bugs me is going down this Jackson and looking at the maze of utility lines that are up there this way and that way and crossing, and they don't look good. They're there for a utility purpose, but getting them underground at least. And so have you thought about what that would mean to do underground utilities?
We've done similar things in other communities, and that's one of your mid-range objectives, because it takes a lot of time even to get that not only designed, but you're dealing with multiple utility companies. So, you know, it takes a process to get it underground, and it's expensive. But I will say this, there are some places where we looked at the fact that you could go to the rears of some of these properties and extend your services from the backside and start, you know, even looking at accomplishing that in pieces of the corridor. And start just by some dialogue, and if those companies are willing to relocate without a huge expense. A lot of times, the best way to do underground utility relocation is in conjunction with some type of TDOT project. The reason I say that is those utilities are within TDOT right-of-way, and so that starts to help govern the idea if you need to do this as a city to improve accessibility, if you need to do this as a transportation project, sometimes it really helps because now you've got someone else, the TDOT, in the dialogue saying, hey, look, here's our design, this stuff has got to move. And then you as a city start talking about how the cost of that might be shared, what kind of ways utilities can work to achieve this, not only just visual improvement, but transportation project. So if you were to apply for a grant for that multimodal trail or sidewalk extensions, and those sidewalks conflicted with utilities, now you've got more than one reason to say we need to move them. So that might be one way you can get a little more leverage on getting utilities put underground or moved.
Yes, sir, Mr. Berry.
Would it be possible to get a before and after photo of the tree at KFC, what it would look like with and without the wires hanging out of it?
They're still in there.
They are actually there, I saw them.
I had to go look at that.
Did you follow up with the employee, Kentucky Fried Chicken? Or?
Wasn't the same lady at the drive-thru.
I don't know if you've heard about this, Heather.
No, but it sounds like it's a little deeper.
Yeah. So
Not all the utilities, but some other utility partners have tied their wires to a tree.
Okay.
So let me remind everyone of the importance of this project, and I appreciate Kevin and the work that he's done in this group's initiative and Ms. Moody's help. Remember what started this whole concept was a national retailer we were trying to recruit to Tullahoma. An email was shared with me that went to a developer from this national retailer saying that Tullahoma was not an attractive community along Jackson Street where they wanted to invest. And frankly, it was just like hit the stomach for me, you know, that we thought we had a chance to recruit this person, but they turned us down. That's what has triggered all of this. And let me also remind you that I'm not privy to any company's sales in Tullahoma, okay? But I'm going to guess between the 2.5 mile stretch from Wilson Avenue to the theater, which is almost exactly 2.5 miles, I'm going to guess that 3/4 of the sales tax revenue from Tullahoma comes from that corridor. Maybe more than that, I don't know. And it's just so critically important. You all know the benefits that we all derive from having enhanced sales tax in Tullahoma. It's very important. Funds the school system, funds so many good things in our community. And it's just so important that we take care of this corridor. And we're doing that. I mean, and I appreciate the work of Ms. Moody and Kevin and others for this. So I'm also reminded that this same corridor serves a family of Tullahoma that pulls out of a shopping area, goes 200 yards, a quarter mile, and goes into another shopping center. That's the same corridor that serves a family that's driving, perhaps, from Chicago to Miami. Okay? That same corridor serves so many important purposes to our community. It was even part of the original Dixie Highway. One corner of it was that was the first paved highway from Chicago to Miami was a portion of this corridor. So it's an important corridor not only to our history, but to our current way of life that we all enjoy. So, Kevin, thank you very much for being here. We look forward to implementing your suggestions. Ms. Moody, did you have anything else? Okay, we have 9 items on the consent agenda. 19-113 minutes of the August 26th regular meeting. 19-114 approved pet adoption partnership agreement with PetSmart Charities, Inc. and the Tillman Animal Shelter. 19-115 approved the fiscal year 2020 public library maintenance of effort agreement. 19-116 approved purchase of replacement backhoe from Meade equipment from state contract in the amount of $106,000. $527.06 for the Public Works Department. 19117, approved purchase of a replacement leaf machine from CMI Equipment Company, all for Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract in the amount of $49,456 for the Public Works Department. Approved a special event sign permit for Coffee County One Day of Hope. 19119, accept a tourism marketing grant award of $3,000 and approve the grant contract with Tennessee Department of Tourism and Development. 19120, approve an engineering services agreement with R.G. Phillips Consulting LLC and St. John Engineering for retiming and optimizing traffic signals on North Jackson Street for a fee of $7,500. And item 19123, CD stamps HVAC replacement bids. The board is recommended to accept the bid from Total Group of $218,579 from budgeted line item. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
Move to approve.
Proper motion by Mr. Norris, seconded by Mr. Mathis. All those in favor of the consent agenda is presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. For those in the audience and maybe watching on TV, the consent agenda items are considered non-controversial in nature, and we deal with those all at one time. Motion approved 7-0. We have two items of old business. Ordinance number 1527, ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by replacing Article 9, Plan Unit Development, with the new Article 9, Plan Development District Overlay for the passage on the second of two readings. We earlier held a public hearing. This has gone through the Planning Commission and approved unanimously, as I recall. We're now ready for the second of two readings. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Noah, second by Dr. Blanks. Any discussion? Ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1528, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is ordinance number 1392, by amending Article 4, Specific District Regulations, Section 3, Residential Districts, by adding R1A, Large Lot Residential District, for passage on the second of two readings. Once again, we earlier held this evening a public hearing. We have passed on first reading. It's also gone through the Planning Commission. This is really good news for our community. It gives us a little bit more flexibility in the planning process and orderly development. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Proper motion by Ms. Blackwell, seconded by Mr. Noes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Ms. Moody, any other old business?
No.
All right, we have a couple of items of new business. Resolution number 1812, a resolution to amend the City of Tullahoma fiscal year 2020 general purpose school budget as needed to complete the drainage and water line replacement project at Bel Air Elementary School. You have an explanation of that in your agenda. Let me get a motion in a second and see if there's any need for any discussion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Proper motion by Dr. Blanks, seconded by Ms. Dunn. Any discussion?
I will give an aside on that. They've been working on this for a while. That school was built over a spring.
Bel Air?
Yeah. But I don't know that's what somebody told me today. Because I asked him, I knew this was coming up when we vote on it tonight, and he said that is always wet under there. He said every couple of days they go down there to make sure that pump is working properly.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I went to school at Bel Air School, and there in the back of the school, there's a very steep set of steps that goes down to a basement. I was always too scared to go down there. But we'd ride our bikes all around it. But yeah, it's been a couple of years ago, though. Yeah.
Early 30s.
Early 30s. Any other relevant discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 1812, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 19121, confirm the police chief appointment as recommended by the city administrator. Let me get a motion and a second on the floor to ratify. And then I'll call on Ms. Moody for some background information. Motion made by Ms. Dunn, second by Dr. Blanks. Mrs. Moody, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. Today I have the extreme privilege to bring forward a recommendation for Tullahoma's next chief of police. The city of Tullahoma has a long history of being a progressive leader among small and mid-sized communities in Tennessee. And it's my hope and expectation that the next chief will follow in that tradition and lead us to become the most sought-after, best trained, and most respected law enforcement agency. Our officers deserve a leader that, above all, makes officer safety the top priority. This means ensuring at every level of our agency that officers are receiving the guidance, support, equipment, and training that they need to perform their job at the highest level. And I'm confident that the best days of this department lie just ahead of us. First and foremost, I want to commend the men and women of our Tullahoma Police Department. They have been dedicated professionals throughout all of the challenges and uncertainty that I feel like has been a dark cloud over the department for the last several months. Specifically, I want to commend and thank Lieutenant Jason Farrell, Lieutenant Phil Henderson, Sergeant Raina Pulowski, and Administrative Coordinator Rosie Barnes. They have gone above and beyond in their regular duties to do anything and everything that was necessary to continue our operations. These four will continue to be invaluable leaders in the department, and they will work with our next chief to set the strategic vision for the Tullahoma Police Department going forward. Next, I would like to review the steps that have been taken to bring forward this recommendation. As recruitments at this level are infrequent, fortunately for me, I think it is valuable for our citizens to hear more about the process. As city administrator, it is my duty to oversee the day-to-day operations of the city. That duty includes responsibility for selecting those who will serve in key leadership positions. This is a decision that is ultimately mine, but I haven't done it alone. I've relied upon a multi-step evaluation process, and in each part, I received candid and insightful feedback for each finalist for this position. All of that feedback has been incorporated into this final recommendation. The recruitment was done in 4 parts. The first part, I relied upon the expertise of the Municipal Technical Advisory Services. You guys know them as UT/MTAS. They assisted us in recruiting qualified candidates, reviewing the resumes, and setting up an assessment center to evaluate the finalists. This part of the process began with the law enforcement consultant from MTAS. His name's Rex Barton. Some of you may know him. He conducted interviews with our staff. The staff he met with included our 2 lieutenants in the police department, the most senior sergeant from each shift in the police department, our fire chief, our HR director, met with our finance director, and then myself. And we were each individually interviewed, and our input is what MTAS used to create a list of critical competencies for the position. They wanted to learn what was Tullahoma looking for in a police chief. They used that input, they determined the exercises and the questions that would be used in the assessment center, and they tried their best to evaluate these candidates on what we said was most important for our department. The next step was MTAS led the assessment center. Rex Barton selected the evaluators. He chose 3 current police chiefs and 1 city manager, all from outside agencies, to serve as the evaluation panel. I did not personally participate in assessing the candidates. Instead, this stage of the evaluation process was meant to be an objective look at the candidates, and then they provided me feedback on each one at the end of that. That's when I chose finalists and decided to hold a final round of interviews where, again, I utilized a community panel as part of the process, in addition to conducting one-on-one interviews myself with each candidate. The community panel consisted of 3 citizens that I felt represented important and diverse perspectives from our community. And then I also chose 2 department heads that would work closest with the next chief, the HR director and our fire chief. The community panel, just like the assessment panel before it, they evaluated and provided candid feedback that has been an indispensable part of the review process. And then last, I conducted a broad check of references, reaching out to individuals who had prior work history with the candidates before finalizing my recommendation to you tonight. So I would like to say I am grateful to the consultants from UT/MTAS to HR Director Costa Bryce and our Fire Chief Richard Chastain, and for all of those, some of which are in the audience, that served as evaluators during this process. Now, I would like to recommend to you Mr. Jason Williams for appointment to Police Chief. During the review process, he demonstrated excellent leadership qualities. Most importantly, that he had both the administrative skill and the legal knowledge required of a chief, combined with the approachability and the empathy of a good mentor. Words that were most frequently used to describe him have included coach, mentor, father figure, and several shared with me that he has a proven track record for developing leaders to follow behind him. He has been credited with leading changes within both the City of Shelbyville Police Department and Bedford County Sheriff's Office that have resulted in each agency achieving recognition for their professionalism, for adherence to standards of excellence. When I asked what he needs to be successful here in his first 60 days, he shared with me his intent to get to know each member of his department one-on-one. This includes riding along with them and working beside them. I believe he will be one who communicates as effectively as he listens, leads by example, and will not be afraid to work alongside our officers as often as necessary. I also believe he will build upon his prior experience in this region to become a valued partner, strengthening relationships between our police department and all of our surrounding agencies. And so I am truly excited for him to join our team, and I'm eager to introduce Jason Williams to the community. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Moody. So I'll open the floor for any discussion. If any alderman has any comments that you'd like to make at this time prior to a vote. Mr. Norris.
I'd like to commend City Administrator for the process that she's gone through. This is, I think, unparalleled, the extent to which she has scrutinized qualified candidates here. And it's that process that has brought us this candidate tonight. And I think we're fortunate to have had Ms. Moody recognizing that you've only been here a year in Tullahoma. She's reached out to the community to participate in this selection process. So it's a community selection. So I think that's important. So I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bear.
I want to join Alderman Noah's in saying that commending you on the process. I think it's been fair and objective, and as Phil said, everybody went through the same process. And I think that you recognized the gravity of this hire and some of the past history and some of the previous failures in leadership and accountability here in the city. And I think that your process was fair and objective, and that you do have the best interests of the city in mind. It's my understanding here that you make a recommendation to the board, but it's ultimately the board's vote. We vote yes or we vote no, and that we each need to own our vote based off of our own research and our data. That being said, I think we come and go at the leisure of the people. You're here, hopefully, right? You're here and you're left with what's behind, and you're responsible ultimately for managing the day-to-day activities of the city and each of the department heads. But it's ultimately our responsibility to do our due diligence, and I think many have, and I know we spent a lot of time together. And I think Mr. Williams is a great candidate. I feel that the process has been amazing, but I feel that there's been one piece left out. And we did for the cityscape, the green recycling, and those other processes, we have citizen panels where citizens and residents of this community get to sit down and talk to the different candidates and have their input, feel a part of the process. And I realize we did a community panel that involved, which I think is extremely important, people from our public safety and economic development. And we were elected here to kind of be that voice, and so people do need to reach out and speak to us. I figured there'd be more here tonight, but there weren't. But I think since we're elected to be that voice of the people, I feel that they were left out. And I'm not saying that you're the wrong candidate, because I do believe that looking through everything that you're a strong candidate, and I think that you can fit the needs of the city. But I think that this is one of those times again, in talking to business owners here in town and talking to residents in the town, that they feel that they were left out of the loop. And they feel that this is, regardless of the process and how we explain it, that they feel that this is again something that where the city, not again, but this is something where the city is making that decision for them and not with them. Because of that, I'd like to make a motion that we table the vote tonight until we can convene a citizens panel made up of residents and business owners and members of the local police department to allow them to provide input on the recommendation, not other candidates, but on the recommendation that you've had, and have a chance to meet him or talk to him.
All right, you've heard a motion. Is there a second? Hearing no second, motion dies. We're back on the original motion. Any other discussion?
I have a little bit of we hired Miss Moody a year ago to be our city administrator, and there was a little bit of, up and down with that as well. I think we got the best candidate at the time. We went through the same process that we did with our police chief. That's going to be our police chief. And sometimes you just have to let the process work its way out. We're not going to make everybody happy with every decision that we make, but ultimately, like you said, it's our responsibility, but I feel like we got to put our support behind our city administrator 100%. So, you're always going to have some yeah in the background. Like I said, you're not going to make everybody happy 100% of the time, but I feel comfortable with the decision that's being made, the choice that we've had set before us, and I think we'll find that out when we vote here in a minute. So, like I told you before, I support your decision. Thank you. I know it's not easy.
Other discussion? Are we ready to vote? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion as presented, vote green. Opposed, vote red. Motion passes 6-1. So, congratulations. So, I understand, there he is. I couldn't see. Yeah.
If I can, I'd like to introduce
Absolutely.
Jason Williams.
Yeah. So, welcome.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Floor is yours. We're anxious to hear from you.
Thank you. I've prepared a few words.
Good.
My mentor has always said that every speech has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But every great speech, beginning and the end are as close together as possible. So I'm going to try not to take up too much of your time. I'd just like to begin by saying what an honor and a privilege it is to stand here before you tonight. It's long been a dream of mine to be the head of a law enforcement organization, and I can't think of a finer organization to run than the Tullahoma Police Department. I think we saw earlier from Lieutenant Henderson what a great representation of a lot of the men and women are that selflessly serve in this community, in that organization. I would like to recognize Administrator Moody and a lot of the other city leaders who put together what I feel has been one of the most rigorous and challenging professional processes that I have ever been involved in. And that includes going through once to attend the FBI National Academy, TBI Leadership Academy, and SECLA. Your dedication and commitment to putting together such a process speaks volumes to not only the professionalism of the leadership within this community, but also your all's expectations from the law enforcement agency. Tullahoma has long been recognized for its focus on education, innovation, and the future. The thing to me that makes Tullahoma special, though, added into that, is that you've always been able to maintain that feeling of community and that feeling of, everybody is a good neighbor to one another. And that is something that I can really appreciate. I am excited to be able to partner with and work alongside so many great men and women here at the Tullahoma Police Department. They selflessly serve this community in so many levels, and if called upon to do so, they will make a sacrifice that many other people are not willing to make. And I just got to say, how awesome is that we have so many public safety professionals that are willing to serve at that level. I want to leave you with a final thought. I feel that great law enforcement agencies don't happen by coincidence, but that they are a result of vision, strategic planning, and community partnerships. Through our vision of transparency, being protective of this community, and being devoted to the best professionals that we can be, and also with our partnerships from our fellow law enforcement agencies, we will strive to be the best law enforcement agency in Middle Tennessee and make Tullahoma one of the safest communities around. And I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. So we're very pleased to have our sheriff partner with us, and Chief Yotha from Manchester. Would either of you like to say anything?
As an elected official, don't have this I just want to commend the work that Ms. Moody has done and all of you with the city board. This is a difficult decision for all of you. You know, I've kept up with a lot of the things dealing with this from the beginning to the end. I worked with this man right here, Phil Harrison, my entire career. He remembers when I started as a corrections officer at the sheriff's office. He worked second shift here at the police department. So, you know, I have loyalties to our established men and women, but I also know as this city moves forward that we have to respect the processes, just like we respect the elections that took place to put each and every one of you sitting there to represent the citizens of Tullahoma. We must also respect the decisions and the processes that were discussed to bring Ms. Moody forward for the city of Tullahoma. So therefore, as your sheriff, I respect the decision that whatever this mayor, board, and an alderman and our city administrator brings forward. I was happy to be invited in that process along with Chief Yotha of the city of Manchester. And I think it's easy or fair to say that Chief Yotha and I cannot wait to get on together with now Chief Williams to build the working relationships back with our law enforcement as a whole. Now, we may disagree about some things on the gridiron or the basketball court or the baseball field, but at the end of the day, I want us to unify as one of law enforcement here in Coffee County, and I will do everything I can to support the men and women of the Tullahoma Police Department always, and I will also respect the decisions made by this newly appointed chief. And I think Chief Yotha and I can't wait to get started. I think we can utilize our resources together to help the city of Tullahoma, the city of Manchester, and also all of Coffee County. So thank you with that process, and if our doors are open at all times for any questions or concerns, and we'll get to work immediately.
Thank you. Thank you.
You were talking about the gridiron? Yes, sir.
Now, which one are you gridironing with here?
Well, sir, go Cats.
Good answer.
Your turn, Chief.
Good answer. Chief, any comments?
I'm not going to say anything. I'm a little bit still upset over the coffee pot. I have been for some time now. But I'm excited. I'm an excited kind of guy, and I'm excited for the Tullahoma Police Department. I appreciate being involved in this process. I think it's been a great process, and I think we have a great leader in Chief Williams now, and I think the Tullahoma Police Department will move forward, and good things are yet to come. And again, I echo Sheriff Harden that we'll all work together and be here to protect our communities provide that service that'll be professional and maybe not that the coffee probably may fuss a little bit, but we're going to do our job and always be there for each other. And I thank you for having us here.
And which college team you refer to?
I'm having trouble there too. So. I appreciate you recognizing.
So, Chief-elect Williams, if you would step to the podium for just a moment, please. I'd like to read a statement. First, congratulations to you on your selection of Chief of Police for Tullahoma. Second, I want to commend Mrs. Moody and her team for their diligent and professional approach during this selection process. Third, Mr. Williams, some unsolicited advice. It is important you establish the vision for your department, as you said earlier, and the strategic steps to accomplish that vision within our overarching vision of designing a world-class community in all that we do. Tullahoma is a safe community made up of many good, caring, and compassionate people. The men and women in the Tullahoma Police Department are also made up of good, caring, compassionate, and professional officers. These officers have been through a lot lately. You are now their leader. I'm confident you will earn their respect soon. Yours is a tough job, a high-profile job. The Chief of Police position is one of the three most high-profile positions in Tullahoma, along with the Director of Schools and the Mayor. I challenge you to engage and communicate regularly. This is an excellent way to build trust and respect in the community. With a high-profile job also comes additional challenges. One bad, tragic mistake by one of your officers, and we're on CNN, and we don't want that to happen. You will be tested both internally and externally. Keep a level head. Always be fair and consistent in your dealings with everyone. You understand chain of command. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen will not interfere in your work. However, we all have high expectations of you. You are a front door to our community. We expect the highest of standards, and we expect professional development from you and your officers. We all want a safe community, and a lot of that falls on your shoulders. You are well prepared for this job. You have managed and led the daily operation for over 100 employees. You have led a criminal investigation division, patrol, training, administrative, and professional standards divisions. We expect you to use your training and expertise to build the most respected police department in the state of Tennessee. In summary, we expect you and your officers to protect, serve, and enforce the laws of Tullahoma and the state of Tennessee to the very best of your ability. Yours is a tough job and one of the hardest jobs, but with the right attitude, I'm sure a very rewarding job. Congratulations. We look forward to big things from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, Ms. Moody, what's the next step here? Now, it's my understanding there are two positions within city government that are actually sworn in.
That's correct.
Yours and
The chief of police.
those are the only two. So what I'm open to suggestions. When is Mr. Williams available to start?
I believe he's agreed to September 30th as a start date, and we will have a swearing-in ceremony in the first meeting in October, and probably a public reception that night as well.
Good. Very good. And I think, as Mr. Berry has pointed out, I think, and others have pointed out, it's important for the community to meet Mr. Williams and get started on the right foot. Okay, we're going to jump back to the agenda here. Item number 19-122, approve a certificate of compliance retail package store for Ganesh 500 Inc., DBA Liquor Locker and Wine Shop, 500 North Jackson Street. Ms. Maxima D. Patel will be the manager, and Mr. Paresh Patel, Mr. Patel, and Mr. Patel are the new owners of this existing retail liquor store in Tullahoma. Are any of the Patels here? Okay, so we're simply affirming what the state has already done or not? Help me out.
Actually, this is the first step.
Okay.
This, it's an existing business, so this is the first step. We have attachments that show all the background information, and now they have to send this to the state of Tennessee, and then they could proceed with the sale from one business owner to, this will be a,
What, do you know, were they requested to be here tonight?
No.
Okay,
because no, we did not request them to be here.
okay, all right. So the motion then would be to approve the certificate of compliance. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dr. Blank, seconded by Mr. Mathis. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion as presented, vote green, opposed, vote red. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Moody, any other new business?
No other business.
All right, we'll adjourn and go into Beer Board portion of the agenda. We have one item, the minutes of the August 26, 2019 Beer Board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Second.
Proper motion, properly seconded by, I forgot, who made the motion?
Brady
Ms. Gunn
Ed, second.
and Ms. Blackwell, second. All those in favor of the consent agenda is presented, vote green, opposed, vote red.
You guys are too quick. Please vote again. Sorry.
Everybody's hungry. Motion passes 7-0. No other business, we are adjourned. Have a safe evening. Thank you.
Okay, I need a couple